Okay everybody, now this is the part where I'm going to show you how to create a mood board. So based off this random idea generator, I was given the random themes of adventure or medical, so I chose to go the adventure route and make a board based off the whole adventure vibe. So what I'm doing now is I'm just scrolling through Pinterest, which is a great resource to use when trying to create these boards or just find any images of inspiration. I've been using Pinterest for a while, and in this case I've just created a board titled Adventure. So every pin or image that I see, I'm going to save it to that adventure board. Now as I go through, I'm trying to find images or photos that have the same kind of colors that I'm looking for. In this case, a lot of oranges, greens, and blues. So just going through, adding a bunch of images to my board that fit that vibe that I want to give off. Now here are the images that I saved to the adventure board, 24 pins, 24 photos, and now I'm going to go ahead and save the ones that I like the most, because again, you don't want to have 50 different photos, you want to have maybe 10 to get the point across. So now I'm just in Photoshop, placing all the photos in. Notice I'm not resizing them, I'm just going to place them all in first. And then once they're all placed in, I'm going to go ahead and rasterize the images so I can then directly edit them. So now they're rasterized, and what I'm going to go ahead and do now is take this duffel bag and just remove the background to make it, transparent, so I can go ahead and edit it and put it over things. Now what I'm doing is I'm in Adobe Illustrator with the images, some of the images that I've chose. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to create like a little color strip of the colors I intend on using if I go ahead and apply this mood board to some real world design. So I'm just going in and getting some of the colors that I really like, just using the eyedropper tool, having a blank square selected, and then using the eyedropper tool to fill them in with colors from the images. Now those are the colors I have, those are the ones I'm going to use in the future, and I'm just going to copy and paste it as a smart object into my Photoshop document and rename it. And now once I have that, I can go ahead and start making the board, resizing images and orienting them based on what feels right. Because again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's mostly just intuitive, what feels right to you. So, and you can see it takes a few minutes, it takes a few different tries in terms of where I want to put certain images. And for me, like I said, it's all very intuitive. Now, I'm back in Pinterest trying to find a better photo of like an orange van that I can use. So I'm saving a couple different photos, and you'll see in a second, I will pick and save my favorite, and I'm gonna go ahead and place it and rasterize it. And then you can see as I'm going along, I'm just layering different images because each image is its own layer. I'm just gonna go ahead and layer them on top or behind each other, whichever fits perfectly. You can see I'm dragging this one behind, I'm going to bring this one back in front, and that's kind of how you get that. Now I'm going to go ahead, because the colors are a little washed, I'm going to adjust the layers in the image panel, and then I'm just going to up the saturation a little bit to make it fit. And there you have it. There's the board. It just takes time. So now that I have the board, I'm going to open up some familiar illustrations with Adobe Illustrator, and then use the color strip that I had created to make designs that fit the vibe of the board that I had just made. So again, all of this is just really intuitive. I'm going in, I'm just picking colors that I think might work, and as I go along, I think, what else can I maybe add or get rid of? And in this case, I thought I could add a couple stripes on the van to fit the 3 color stripes that are in the mood board. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a clipping mask once I have the orientation that I like. There we go. There's the clipping mask. Maybe make a few different versions. What I like to do when I have colors I like is I'll make a few different versions of the different colors, the different styles, different orientations. And I say this all the time, and I've probably said it during the course of this course, is for me as a designer, the thing that I would say is the hardest or that takes the longest is me just deciding which colors I want to use. So as a rule of thumb, I like to make several different versions of different colors, and that's exactly what I'm doing here, because you might like something and you might just be okay with how it is, but you never really know until you make several different versions with several different colorways. So that's what I like to do every time I make any kind of project, so I can kind of, at that point when it's time to wrap it up, I have the process of elimination to pick my favorites. So again, for me, what takes the longest and can sometimes be the most difficult is just picking color, believe it or not. So in this case, I'm going to make a couple different versions of each one, and then if I ever decide to use these, I have the option to come back and pick which one's my favorite. So in this case, I'm leaning more towards this bike, the dark blue. And if I ever end up using this in the future, this is probably the colorway I'll end up using. And then again, I have to make the artboard bigger because this bike is pretty big. So just going in, changing the colors, and seeing what I like. And this is a real world example of how I would create a mood board for a specific project if it calls for it, and then how I would take that mood board and translate those colors or those vibes or feelings I want to give off in an actual design or, collection of clothing, if you will. So that's where the mood board really comes in. It's kind of just, it's exactly that. It gives off the mood that you want, or vibe that you want to portray in the finalized work. So it's just something to reference when you're trying to connect the dots between the finished product and the original idea for inspiration. So in that regard, they're really valuable and they're really powerful. And they're also really fun to make too, and they're really cool posters. I'll end up probably printing this poster out of the board that I had made and putting it on the wall or something like that. So now that I have the one colorway done, obviously I'm going to go in and see if I can make any more colorways to see if I like one version better than the other. I always try to do a couple of the same, in this case bike, just in different colors. And I also think it's important to try to be mindful of the colors you're using to try to give it a nice balance of color. You want to make sure that the colors are spread out in a balanced way so it feels right on the eyes. And there you have it, guys. That's how I use Photoshop and Illustrator to create mood boards, to make a foundation of the vibe or mood I want to give off, and then how I would use the colors and vibe of that mood board to go ahead and make some really cool designs for Onwards or a client or a project, whatever it may be. That's how you do it. And with that, let's move on.